In the dim glow of a flickering street lamp, the faint whisper of a lullaby echoed through the abandoned house at the edge of Blackwood Forest. Once a grand estate, it now stood as a decaying monument to tragedy. Inside, behind a locked glass case, sat an ancient doll with glassy eyes, its painted lips curled in a faint, eerie smile. To those who dared to look too long, the doll seemed to watch and wait. The Blackwood Manor had long been the subject of local legends. When the Langley family moved in, they dismissed the rumors as superstitions born of small-town boredom. The family consisted of Emma, a struggling artist, her husband David, a history professor, and their curious 10-year-old daughter, Lily. On their first day, as they explored the manor, they found a locked room on the third floor. Inside, they discovered the doll encased in glass, seated in an ornate wooden chair. Its Victorian-style dress was pristine, despite the surrounding dust, and its black curls framed a face that seemed almost too lifelike. "Let's not disturb it," David suggested uneasily, but Lily was enchanted. She pressed her small hands against the glass, her breath fogging it as she whispered, "She's beautiful. Can we keep her, Mom?" Emma laughed nervously. "I don't think she's ours to keep, sweetheart." That night, the whispers began. Lily woke up at 3:33 a.m., her room bathed in moonlight. She heard a soft, melodic hum drifting through the halls. It sounded like a lullaby, a tune she didn't recognize, but felt oddly familiar. Drawn to the sound, she crept barefoot down the creaking stairs and found herself standing before the glass case. The doll's head had tilted slightly to the side. Lily ... The voice was faint but clear, and it came from the doll. "Let me out. I'm lonely." Terrified yet strangely entranced, Lily reached for the glass, her fingers brushing the lock. A sharp jolt of cold shot through her, snapping her out of the trance. She ran back to her room, tears streaming down her face. The next morning, Emma noticed Lily's pale complexion and tired eyes. When asked, Lily only said she'd had a bad dream. David, skeptical of the supernatural, chalked it up to the stress of moving. But Emma grew uneasy. As she painted in her studio, she found herself sketching the doll's face repeatedly, unable to stop. Each iteration felt more menacing than the last. Her once vibrant artwork turned dark and grotesque, filled with shadowy figures and hollow eyes. David began researching the house's history and discovered a chilling tale. In 1897, a girl named Annabelle Whitmore lived in the manor. She was a gifted child, but lonely. Her father, a wealthy merchant, commissioned a doll maker to create a lifelike companion for her. However, Annabelle died mysteriously just weeks after receiving the doll. Some said her spirit had fused with it, turning the doll into a vessel of vengeance. The family's nights grew more disturbing. Emma woke to find her paintings defaced with crude depictions of the doll. David heard footsteps pacing outside their bedroom door. Lily began speaking to someone unseen, her laughter echoing eerily through the halls. One stormy night, the glass case shattered. The doll was gone. Emma found Lily in the attic, cradling the doll like a baby. "She's my friend now," Lily said, her voice distant and hollow. Emma snatched the doll away and threw it into the fireplace. The flames roared unnaturally high, casting grotesque shadows across the room. A blood-curdling scream erupted from the fire as the doll's face twisted, melting away into a blackened skull. The family fled the house that night, but the curse followed. Lily's health deteriorated, and she began drawing the doll obsessively. Emma dreamed of glassy eyes watching her from the dark corners of her studio. David heard the lullaby wherever he went. Desperate, they consulted a medium. The medium confirmed their fears. Annabelle's spirit was bound to the doll, and destroying it had only released her fully. "She won't stop until she has a host," the medium warned. "Your daughter is in grave danger." The family returned to the manor for a final confrontation. In the dead of night, they performed a séance in the room where the glass case had once stood. The air grew icy, and the room filled with a deafening cacophony of cries and whispers. Annabelle appeared, her translucent form twisted with rage. "You took her from me!" she shrieked, pointing at Lily. The room exploded in chaos. Windows shattered, furniture levitated, and shadows writhed across the walls. Emma, clutching a locket that belonged to Annabelle, begged for mercy. "You're not alone anymore," she cried. "We'll remember you. Please let her go." For a moment, the spirit paused. Then, with a final haunting wail, she vanished. The Langley family left Blackwood Manor forever, but the curse left its mark. Lily never spoke of the doll again, though sometimes late at night, Emma would catch her humming that same eerie lullaby, and far away, in the ashes of the old fireplace, the doll's charred face reassembled itself, the faint trace of a smile returning to its lips. Beneath the moonless sky of Blackwood Forest, a single tree stood apart from the others, its gnarled branches reaching like claws, its roots twisting through the earth like veins of some ancient beast. Locals called it the Whispering Tree, a name spoken only in hushed tones, as though the mere mention might summon its wrath. No one dared venture near it, not after the stories, the disappearances, the voices in the wind, the shadows that moved when no one was there. But Emma didn't believe in stories. And tonight, as the wind howled through the forest, she would learn the truth, that some legends don't die. They hunger. In the heart of Blackwood Forest, an ancient tree stood, gnarled, skeletal, and twisted. The locals called it the Whispering Tree. No one knew its true name or origin, but legends swirled like mist around it. They said the tree had been there longer than memory, a sinister relic of a forgotten time. The villagers whispered about it in hushed tones, cautioning children not to wander too close. They claimed the tree fed on fear, on secrets, on sins. Strange happenings surrounded it, people disappearing, whispers in the wind carrying voices of the lost, and shadows moving where no one walked. For decades, curiosity had been the tree's greatest weapon, and tonight, it claimed a new victim. Emma, a nature photographer, had heard the stories but dismissed them as rural superstition. She came to Blackwood seeking inspiration, drawn by the haunting beauty of the forest. With her camera slung over her shoulder, she ventured deep into the woods, her boots crunching the frost-bitten leaves beneath her feet. The air grew colder, heavier. Shadows stretched unnaturally long. A sense of foreboding prickled at her neck, but Emma pressed on, determined to find the legendary tree. Her guide, a scruffy local man named Peter, had refused to go beyond the forest's edge. "You'll regret it," he'd muttered, spitting on the ground. "We all do." By the time Emma found the tree, twilight had surrendered to night. It loomed before her, more grotesque than she'd imagined. The bark was gray and cracked, resembling weathered flesh. Its branches clawed the sky like skeletal fingers, and its roots erupted from the earth like coiled serpents. But it wasn't just the appearance, it was the feeling. The tree radiated malice, a palpable hatred that hung in the air. She raised her camera, but the moment her finger hovered over the shutter, the whispers began. At first they were faint, a soft murmuring that seemed to drift on the breeze. But as Emma stepped closer, they grew louder, clearer. Voices, fragmented and urgent, called her name. "Emma. Emma." She froze, her breath misting in the frigid air. The whispers seemed to come from the tree itself, resonating from deep within its gnarled trunk. The camera in her hands felt suddenly heavy, as if the tree's presence drained her strength. "Emma, help us." Her rational mind warred with primal fear. She forced a laugh, shaky and hollow. "It's just the wind," she whispered, trying to convince herself. But the voices didn't stop. They grew more insistent, overlapping, a cacophony of pleading and anguish. Then she saw it. Faces. Pale, ghastly faces pressed against the bark, their mouths open in silent screams. They were fleeting, vanishing the moment she blinked, but their terror was etched into her mind. "Peter was right," Emma muttered. She turned to leave, but the ground beneath her shifted. The roots seemed to writhe, coiling around her ankles like serpents. Panic surged. She tugged her legs free, stumbling back. Her flashlight flickered, its beam casting eerie shadows that danced across the forest floor. Then from the corner of her eye, she saw movement. A figure, no, several figures, emerged from the darkness. They were translucent, spectral, their faces twisted with torment. One of them, a young woman in a tattered dress, reached out to Emma with trembling hands. "Help us," the ghostly figure whispered. "The tree keeps us here. It feeds on us. On you." Emma's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" she stammered, though her instincts screamed at her to run. "The whispers," the woman said. "They draw you in. And once you're close, it takes you. It plants you here, and you become part of it." Emma stumbled back, clutching her camera, as if it could protect her. The woman's face dissolved into ash, scattering in the wind. The whispers grew louder, more desperate. And then the tree moved. Its branches creaked, bending unnaturally. The bark split open, revealing a gaping maw lined with jagged thorn-like teeth. The air grew thick with the stench of decay. Emma screamed and bolted, dodging the grasping roots. The forest twisted around her, disorienting her. Every path looked the same, every shadow seemed alive. Her flashlight failed entirely, plunging her into darkness. But she could still hear the tree's whispers, now mingled with its monstrous laughter. She tripped and fell, the camera slipping from her grasp. As she scrambled to her feet, she felt the roots again, wrapping around her arms and legs, dragging her back toward the tree. She clawed at the ground, screaming, but the whispers drowned her out. "Stay with us," they said. "Forever." The last thing Emma saw before she was pulled into the tree was the faces, dozens of them, twisted with agony, emerging from its bark to welcome her. The next morning, Peter stood at the edge of the forest, gazing at the fog that clung to the trees like a shroud. He sighed, muttering a prayer under his breath. He knew Emma wouldn't return. No one ever did. Far away, in the heart of the forest, the whispering tree stood silent once more, its branches heavy with new whispers waiting to be heard. And so, the whispering tree stood silent once more, its branches swaying gently in the cold wind, as if in satisfaction. The forest swallowed the last echoes of Emma's struggle, leaving only the whispers to linger. Soft, insidious, promising secrets to those who dared to listen. Far away, at the forest's edge, the sun began to rise, casting pale light on a world that would never know what happened beneath its ancient canopy. But deep in the heart of Blackwood, the tree waited, hungry, patient, knowing someone would come again. They always did. Beware the whispering tree, for it is patient, and its hunger is eternal. It calls not to the curious, but to the vulnerable, the guilty, the broken. Its voice will creep into your dreams, weaving promises and lies, until you find yourself drawn back to its shadow. You might tell yourself it's just a story, just the wind in the trees, but deep down, you'll know the truth. The whispering tree never forgets. Its roots reach far, its whispers travel wide, and its branches cradle the souls it claims. Run while you can, but know this: once it has spoken your name, the forest will always find you. And when it does, the tree will be waiting, hungry, patient, and ready to make you part of its legend forever.